Tonight, I'm sharing 3 terrifying night drive stories that make me question if I'll ever drive alone again. But before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. And let me know in the comments, where are you watching from? Now, let's get into the stories. It was a little past midnight when I finally clocked out of work. My back ached, my feet throbbed, and my mind was already in bed, curled up under warm blankets. But between me and that sweet relief was a 45-minute drive, down an empty, lonely stretch of highway. I had driven this road hundreds of times. It was always the same. Miles of nothingness, an occasional flickering streetlight, and the steady hum of my tires against the pavement. I usually enjoyed the quiet, but that night, something felt off. The fog was the first thing I noticed. It was thick, rolling across the road like a living thing. My headlights barely cut through it, making visibility nearly impossible. I gripped the wheel tighter and focused on the road. Just keep driving. Then, I saw him. A man stood on the side of the road, just outside the reach of my headlights. Still, unmoving. I slowed down. Not because I wanted to, something inside me screamed not to, but my foot eased off the gas on its own. The man stood there, head lowered, his clothes soaked as if he had been standing in the rain for hours. But there hadn't been any rain that night. I should have kept driving. I should have pressed the gas and never looked back. But I didn't. I rolled down my window just a crack. "Hey, do you need a ride?" My voice sounded too loud, cutting through the dead silence of the road. The man didn't move at first. Then, slowly, he lifted his head. I wish he hadn't. His face was pale. Too pale. His eyes were sunken, and his lips were cracked and dry. For a moment, he just stared at me, unblinking. Then, without a word, he walked around to the passenger side and got in. The air in the car changed instantly. It was freezing. I could see my own breath in front of me. The car smelled strange, a mix of damp earth and something rotting. I forced a nervous chuckle. "Rough night?" He didn't respond. I glanced at him from the corner of my eye. He was sitting too still, his hands resting on his lap, fingers long and bony. Something about the way he sat felt wrong. I cleared my throat. "Where are you headed?" Silence. My stomach twisted into knots. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I swallowed. Keep driving. Get home. Forget this ever happened. Then, out of nowhere, he spoke. His voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. "You should have kept driving." A chill ran through my body. I turned to look at him, but the passenger seat was empty. My heart stopped. I gasped and slammed the brakes, my tires screeching against the pavement. The car lurched forward, and for a moment, all I could hear was my own ragged breathing. Then, a soft exhale behind me. I didn't want to look, but my eyes drifted to the rearview mirror, and there he was, sitting in the back seat. His face was different now. His lips were curled into a grin, his teeth sharp, his hollow eyes locked onto mine. He leaned forward. A hand, ice cold and skeletal, touched my shoulder. I screamed and threw the car into drive, flooring the gas. The speedometer climbed. 50 miles per hour, 60, 70. My hands shook as I gripped the wheel, my vision blurring with panic. I kept my eyes forward, refusing to look in the mirror again. Don't look. Don't look. Don't. A laugh. Low. Guttural. Right. In. My. Ear. Tears burned in my eyes. "Leave me alone!" I shouted. The car lurched. The headlights flickered. And then, silence. I risked a glance at the rearview mirror. The back seat was empty. The car smelled normal again. The freezing cold had vanished. I let out a shaky breath, my entire body trembling. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. It's over. I took a few deep breaths, slowing the car to a normal speed. The road stretched out in front of me, dark and quiet. And then, just as I started to relax, I saw it. Afatulos usenet utasablakon. 4 words, written in smudged fingerprints. See you again soon. I didn't stop driving until the sun rose. I didn't sleep for days, and I never drive alone at night anymore. I had taken this route home at least 100 times, maybe more. It was always the same. 40 minutes on the highway, then a short back road that led directly to my street. But that night, something was different. It started with my GPS acting weird. The screen flickered, then reset itself, flashing a message, recalculating, over and over. I frowned and ignored it. I knew this drive by heart. I didn't need a GPS. That's when I saw the road. I shouldn't have seen it. A narrow path branched off the right side of the highway. No street signs, no markings. Just a dirt road vanishing into thick trees. I had never seen this road before, but my GPS suddenly stopped recalculating and displayed a single instruction. Turn right. I hesitated. My gut screamed no, but my hands moved on their own. I turned onto the road. At first, it felt normal, just an old, unused back road. My tires crunched against the gravel, the headlights barely cutting through the fog that had settled between the trees. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The road didn't end. The further I drove, the more the trees closed in, their twisted branches arching over the road, blocking out the sky. The headlights barely reached beyond a few feet, swallowed by the creeping fog. Something felt off. The road was too long. I had never seen this route before, but now I was deep inside it, as if it had been waiting for me to take the wrong turn. I glanced at my phone. No signal. My stomach twisted. I needed to turn back, but when I checked my rearview mirror, the road behind me was gone. Nothing but trees. A chill ran through my entire body. This isn't possible. I slowed to a stop. My breathing was uneven now, my hands damp against the wheel. Then, my headlights caught something up ahead. A car. No, several cars. Old, abandoned vehicles lined along the road. Some were covered in rust. Others had shattered windshields. One had a door still hanging open, swinging slightly as if someone had just left it. I swallowed hard, my heart hammering. That's when I saw the shadows. They stood between the cars. Dark figures, motionless, lining the road ahead of me. I couldn't see faces. I couldn't tell if they were even people. A thick, horrible silence filled the car. I pressed the gas pedal gently at first, hoping, praying, that whatever those things were, they wouldn't react. The car crept forward, my headlights barely illuminating the eerie silhouettes ahead. Then, one of them moved. Not like a person. Not like anything I'd ever seen before. Its head snapped up too fast, its body shifting in an unnatural, jerky motion. The others followed, their featureless faces turning toward me all at once. A deep, gut-wrenching sense of wrongness filled me. Then, they started walking toward the car. I slammed my foot down on the gas pedal. The tires spun in the dirt for half a second before the car lunged forward. The figures didn't stop moving. I swerved, barely missing one of them as I tore down the road. I couldn't tell if they were running, gliding, or floating, but they were keeping up. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. The road was still endless, stretching in front of me with no signs of an exit. The trees on either side blurred together, and the air inside the car felt heavier, as if something unseen was breathing beside me. I risked a glance in the rearview mirror. Big mistake. One of them was right behind my car. Its face, or lack of one, pressing against the back windshield. I choked on a scream. The thing grinned, revealing a set of teeth too long, too sharp. Too many. I didn't stop. I didn't let myself blink. I just drove faster. The road was twisting now, curving in unnatural ways, forcing me to swerve wildly to avoid skidding off into the dense forest. And then, just when I thought I couldn't handle another second of this nightmare, I saw it. A break in the trees. A flash of pavement. The highway. Hope slammed into me like a punch to the chest. I floored it. The second my tires hit asphalt again, I nearly lost control. But I didn't care. I was out. I slammed the brakes and whipped my head around to look behind me. The road was gone. No turn. No dirt path. Nothing but solid trees stretching endlessly into the darkness. My hands were shaking. My breathing was uneven, my entire body trembling as the reality of what had just happened settled in. I sat there for a long time, staring at where the road should have been. Then, my phone buzzed. A single notification flashed on my screen. It was from my GPS. Recalculating route. I left my car right there on the highway that night, and I never drove that way again. I never feared driving at night. In fact, I used to enjoy it. There was something peaceful about the quiet roads, the hum of the engine, the occasional flickering streetlight passing overhead. But that was before. Before the night, I saw something in my rearview mirror. Something that wasn't supposed to be there. That was the night I stopped driving alone after dark. It was close to 1 a.m. when I left my friend's place. The roads were empty, and the drive home should have been uneventful. 40 minutes of straight highway, a few turns, and I'd be back in my bed. But about 15 minutes into the drive, my radio turned on by itself. The volume slowly crept up, though the station was nothing but static. I frowned and reached to turn it off, but as soon as my hand touched the dial, a voice whispered through the static. "Look in the mirror." I jerked my hand back like I had been burned. My heart slammed against my ribs. I glanced at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone sitting in my back seat. Nothing. Just the dark, empty road behind me. I forced a laugh. I'm losing it. I turned the radio off. Silence. I told myself it was just a glitch, my mind playing tricks on me. But then, a few minutes later, the streetlights started flickering. One by one, as I passed under them, they would blink out, leaving only darkness in my wake. My stomach tightened. The road ahead stretched on forever, but now it felt like I was the only person left in the world. Then, my phone buzzed. A notification popped up. Unknown number. Don't look in the mirror. I felt ice crawl through my veins. I didn't open the message. I didn't want to know. Instead, I pressed the gas, willing my car to move faster. But something changed. The air in the car shifted, like the pressure had dropped. My ears popped. And then, a breath. Software right behind me. My fingers dug into the wheel. My mouth went dry. I told myself not to look, but my eyes moved to the mirror anyway. And I saw it. A face. Pale, grinning. Eyes too wide, too dark. It wasn't behind me. Not exactly. It was in the mirror, staring at me. And worst of all, it looked like me. I screamed. The car veered off the road, my tires skidding on the pavement. I barely managed to regain control, my chest heaving as I gasped for breath. I refused to look in the mirror again. I kept my eyes on the road, my foot pressing the gas harder, harder, harder. And then the headlights cut out. The world went black. For a full 5 seconds, I was trapped in total darkness. Then, the lights flickered back on. I was somewhere else. The road was gone. The highway was gone. I was surrounded by trees, my car sitting on a narrow dirt path that I didn't recognize. My hands were shaking violently. What the hell just happened? I didn't remember turning. I didn't remember leaving the highway. I tried my phone. No signal. My breath came in ragged gasps as I threw the car into reverse, my tires spinning wildly against the loose dirt. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something. The mirror. The reflection inside was wrong. It wasn't showing the trees. It wasn't showing the inside of my car. It was showing a road. A perfectly paved highway. Like the one I'd been driving on. And in the mirror's reflection, I was still there. My reflection was still driving. But it wasn't moving like me. I gasped, horror gripping my chest as I watched my own reflection turn its head and look at me. Then, it smiled. Not a normal smile. Not my smile. It was something twisted, something inhuman. And then, it lifted its hand. My reflection's fingers pressed against the glass from the inside of the mirror, as if it was trying to get out. I let out a strangled scream and slammed the gas. The car lurched backward, the wheels kicking up dirt. And suddenly, I was back on the highway. Just like that. 1 second, I was in the woods. The next, I was back on smooth asphalt, my car swerving wildly as I struggled to regain control. My heart felt like it would explode. The road stretched ahead like nothing had happened. But I knew it had. My rearview mirror was still cracked, and on the fogged-up glass, smudged in what looked like fingerprints, were 4 words. See you next time.